Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom and welcome back. Today's Daf is Pesachim Kuf Yud Aleph. We are 4 lines from the top of the Amid. Says the Gemara, Omar Reish Lakish Arba Dvarim. The following 4 things, the following 4 practices, which can antagonize the Ruchos Rois, the Shedim, Ha'oise Oisan. One who doesn't take care to refrain, to be careful from these things, he actually does them. Damai B'Roshai. He himself is held accountable for any consequences. He's going to be punished for placing himself in danger and experiencing the consequences that can follow. Perhaps they can harm or even kill him. Elohim. These are the 4 things. Hanifne bein dekel kaisel. If one relieves himself between the palm tree and the wall, where the Ruchos Rois, the evil spirits, congregate. So he goes and encroaches into their turf, into their territory, and he is nifne there. Now, relieving oneself entails psilas, and we know that the evil spirits are attracted to dirt, to psilas. That's their essence, their tumah, and that's their domain. So one encroaches on their turf and he is nifnesham, he interferes with them. That can actually arouse their wrath and they can affect him and harm him. Va'over ben shnei dekolim, one who passes in between 2 palm trees. It's a narrow space, and the shedim, the mazikim, the Ruchos Rois congregate there. That's their home territory. He passes through there and enrages them. Ve'ashoisa ma'im sh'ulim, or one who drinks borrowed water. Va'over al ma'im shfuchen, or one who passes over spilled water. Even if his wife, or some say Bita, his daughter, spilled it out before him, so he knows exactly what it is. There's nothing unknown here. Still, a danger is present if one walks over this puddle of water. Now the Gemara will explain, atomize each one. We said hanifne bein dekel kaisel. If one relieves himself between the palm tree and the wall, that poses a danger. And that's only a concern when there is no space of arba ames between the dekel and the wall. Some explain this to mean that he doesn't have, the one who is nifne, goes to the bathroom, doesn't have 4 ames, which is mekayme shel adam. We know by tefillah, 4 ames surrounding a person is considered mekayme shel adam. By tefillah, we know that a person is koine something which is within his 4 ames. And 4 ames is considered personal domain, personal space. So some explain the Leslie Abramis means that the person who is nifne sham doesn't have his own 4 ames in addition to something a bit extra, a little extra space to accommodate the mazikim. So it's a small narrow area, in which case he's encroaching on the turf. Aval islay arba ames, but if we have 4 ames there, in which case there's enough space for all, less lamba, there's no concern. And even when there is no dalad ames, there is only a concern elo de leka dikachrina. When there's no other pathway, they have no other way to go. It's a place which is blocked, and this is the only opening. But if there's another area, less lamba, there's no concern, because the shaitan will simply take a detour. If they have an alternative, they won't go ahead and harm this fellow. So that's regarding the first item on the list, nifne bein dekel kaisel. It's only if 2 conditions are present. It's a small narrow area without an alternate route. What about the second item? Va'over ben shnei dekolim, one passes through between 2 palm trees. Lo yamar. That concern only applies elod le paskinu rishus harabim, when there's no rishus harabim intersecting between the 2 palm trees. Aval paskinu rishus harabim less lamba. But if there's a rishus harabim intersecting there, it's a public domain. The mazikim are not present there, and they won't cause any harm. Let's take a look at the Rashbam on the first wide line. Elod lehavi arba ames. There's no 4 ames there, which doesn't allow the shade to pass through there. That's why he's going to harm. He has no reason. He has no interest in harming people unless he feels encroached upon and interfered with. Therefore, only if it's a small area. And that's only when he has no other alternative. He has no other way to go, and therefore, when this fellow arrives and interferes and encroaches on its territory, he can get hezek, be harmed by the shade. That's regarding the first item. Regarding going between the two dekalim, says the Gemara, that's only when there's no rishus rabim there. Aval paskinu, the shchichi rabim, the rabim are present there. Lesle rishus lahazik she'en lo ligzos harabim. He follows halach. He knows that rishus rabim, he has no business taking away from the rabim. Therefore, if this pathway happens to be rishus rabim, or as Rashi says, the shchichi rabim, not necessarily a full-fledged street, but rabim are present there, the shade will find another place to be. The Chazon Ish, so there was a little pathway near his home, a narrow alleyway, where there was a decal on either side, and people would just pass through, and they asked the Chazon Ish, why is there no concern? And he said, interesting point. He said that, these discussions in the Gemara involving mystical things, in Yani Skula and Shadim, Mazikim, were presented for their generations. And as the generations proceeded, we noticed yesterday in the Rashbam regarding Zugais, just as the Kayach HaKedusha got weakened, correspondingly the Kayach HaTuma and the Shadim, Mazikim, Ruchas Rois are less potent and less effective and less harmful. And therefore he says, only something on which we have a Kabbalah, a tradition to be careful with, then we're careful even nowadays, but something like this with the Kalam, that's not something which we have a Kabbalah, that it is something to be careful with even today. There's no concern, and he allowed them to walk between the two Kalam. Interestingly enough, the Igros Moshe also has a whole tshuva about this. Somebody asked him regarding the Tzavos Rabbi Yehuda Kessler. There's a whole long of instructions in the will of Rabbi Yehuda Kessler to his children. Many things. Don't build a new house, a new plot of land, all kinds of instructions. And the question is, does it apply to us, and does it apply today? So the Rabbi Yehuda maintained that it only applies to his descendants, but not to anybody else. Rabbi Moshe writes that it depends what. Some things were neskabel in Klal Yisrael. He says Hashgacha Pratis led things that in a way that things that Hashem wanted to be accepted and fulfilled, it was nespashat b'Yisrael, Klal Yisrael makablet. But things which we don't see Klal Yisrael are adhering to, apparently it's not something which is of concern to us. So for instance, two brothers marrying two sisters, which is one of the things mentioned in Rabbi Yehuda Chassid Tzava. This was the question to Rav Moshe. Could two brothers marry two sisters? He said, we don't find throughout the generations that Klal Yisrael were careful with that. Apparently it's not something that is meant to concern us, and he allows the two brothers to marry two sisters. However, there are some things even within Rabbi Yehuda Chassid Tzava that we find Klal Yisrael are careful with. For instance, this is a famous one, and actually relates to this Gemara, getting in the way of the Shadim, regarding sealing a doorway or a window, bricking it up, closing it up. He says you're not allowed to do that because the shade perhaps was given power and authority to go through that area, to traverse through that opening, and now that you're going to block it up permanently, he's not going to have a way to get through, and perhaps it can create a sakana. And that's indeed something which even today, nowadays, we're makpid. Rabbi Yasha was makpid. The Pesachim makpid on it today. You're not meant to seal up an opening, a window or a doorway, but there is a way around it. You just have to drill leave a small, teeny opening. Just a small hole is enough. And Rabbi Yasha even maintains you could put something temporary there, a piece of tape, so it doesn't really have much of an effect. A small hole, and you can plug it up with some cotton or something so that it's technically still open. And as long as the shade has a way to get through, he's not gonna make trouble, as we find in our Gemara. As long as you allow him passage, that's okay. And he doesn't need much passage. Even a small, teeny hole apparently is sufficient. Okay, let's continue the Gemara. Hashoysa mayim sh'ulin, this was the third item on the list of Rish Lakish, to be careful. Careful with drinking mayim sh'ulin. Borrowed water is not meant to be drunk. Lo yamar, that's only a concern, ela de shailinu katan. If a katan borrowed it. Aval gadol, less lamba, but if it was borrowed by an adult, there's no concern. These are mystical things, take it as it is. Va'afilu shailinu katan, even if a katan borrowed it, nami lo yamar, it's only a concern, only applies el besada, when it's out in the field, lo shchichi, where there isn't much of a water supply there, and the shade is moiser nafshay. Rashbam says moiser nefesh to drink because of the water shortage. Aval be'ir d'shrichi les lamba, but in the city where there's an abundance of water, there's no concern. If he can't drink this, he'll find himself another source of water. Even the field, it is only a concern elamayir, only when it comes to water. When it comes to wine or beer, it's been processed, it's been adapted. That's not something which appeals to the shade, and therefore there's no concern with drinking it. This is the fourth item on Rish Lakish's list. You're not meant to pass over spilled water. It's only a concern when it wasn't covered with some afar, some dirt. He didn't spit some saliva into it. But if it was covered a bit, coated with afar, or he spat some saliva in it, some say the drinker himself has to do that. In that case, it's no longer attractive to the shade, and he may go ahead and pass over it. So if it's coated with afar, or there's some saliva spit into it, and some say it's anybody, some say the one passing over has to do it, then there's no concern. And again, this only applies only if it wasn't exposed to sunlight. There wasn't anybody who took 60 steps over it. But if it was exposed to sunlight, or 60 steps were taking over it, that nullifies the effect. There's no concern. And furthermore, there's no concern. Only it only applies when he's not riding on a chamra, on a donkey. And also not wearing shoes. If the person passing over this water is actually riding on a donkey, or wearing shoes, there's no concern. This only applies, meaning all these various stipulations that the concern is only present when it hadn't been exposed to sunlight, he's not running on a donkey. That's only when it comes to a concern regarding shadim and ruchas rois. And there's no concern of kshafim. We learned yesterday that generally the nashim were involved in kishav. So in a place where there are no mechashvois and the concern of kishav doesn't apply, then you're okay as long as you conform to these conditions. But in a place where there is a kishav concern, some of these nashim are roaming around, in that case, there's an additional source of danger, even if you conform to all these conditions. He's riding on a donkey, etc., where the shadim and ruchas rois will not have an effect, but the kishav can still be effective. Apparently kishav, as we learned yesterday, is stronger, more severe than the effect of shadim, mazikim. Perhaps the kishav, since it's man-made, a person is more empowered than the various forces of nature, and he has an effect even when the shadim, mazikim are limited in their influence. The Gemara brings a raya, Dahu Gavra, as we find in the following story, this fellow, the Rachav Chamra, who was riding a donkey, V'sayim Masani, and wearing shoes, and he passed over these Mayim Shvuchim, V'gamud Masani. What happened? His shoes shriveled at Savukari, and his feet dried up. Apparently, he was affected by the Kshafim, which are stronger and more severe than even the Shadim and the Ruchais Rois. Continues the Gemara, Tana Rabban, Shloisha. There are three creatures. Ein mematzin. You're not meant to have one of them walk in between, pass through in between two people. V'loy mesmatzin. And likewise, you're not meant to walk between two of them. Ve'elohein. And these are the three things: ha-kelev, a dog, and I'm meant to have a kelev walk between two people, or a person walk between two dogs. Va-dekel, a palm tree, as we mentioned earlier, a person is not meant to walk between two palm trees. Presumably we were speaking that they're close together, in which case you're encroaching on the ruchos rois, which congregate there. Via isha, finally the isha, this is a known halacha, it's actually brought down halacha, that an isha is not meant to allow an isha to walk between two men, and likewise a man between two nashim. Yesh oimrim, some add afa chazir, a chazir as well. Yesh oimrim afa nachash. The same thing applies to a snake. V'imamatzim, suppose there was passage that occurred. Maita kante, what is the remedy? Amar Rav Papa, he should recite the following psukim, which will disempower the koyach of the ruach ra and protect him. Niftach bekel v'nafse bekel. The Rashbam learns, it's in reference to those psukim said by Bilam when he was exasperated that he couldn't curse Klal Yisrael. He said, look, lo yish, he said, Kel motziyim mitzrayim, kilu nachash b'Yaakov. Look, Klal Yisrael are above the reach of curse and sorcery and all these evil koiches in the world. They're close to Hashem and protected by Hashem. Ad ma po'al kel. So it begins with kel, ends with kel, denoting that Klal Yisrael are insulated from this type of effect. So that's what he should say if something like this happens. This will protect them from danger. Inami, alternatively, can say other psukim. Niftach beloi, v'nafsik beloi. Again, the Rashbam refers to the psukim in Balak, which begin lo yish kel v'yichazev, said by Bilam, ad v'lo yikimena. So he says those psukim, which again denote the higher status of Klal Yisrael and how we are, by nature, above the reach of these koiches hara and unaffected by them. Tosfos has a kasha. He says, how could you use a divrei Torah for refuah? And he brings one teres lahagin shari to protect as mutter, and he actually brings the Rabbeinu Chananel, which we'll find off to the side here, who actually learns differently than the Rashbam. It's not a reference to psukim that he's going to say, but it's actually a reference to a tefillah. He says that niftach bekel v'nafsik bekel is a reference to a tefillah, which begins Keil Elokim Hashem, Hashem protect me mikol ra, and ends with Ki ato Keil. And likewise, the other option of Loi begins with Loi Tetsheni, Elok Hashem, don't abandon me, and ends with Al Toim Alei, Hashem, don't refuse my appeal, protect me from all harm. So according to Rabbi Chananel, it's not psukim that he's saying, but especially a special composed tefillah for this occasion. Continues the Gemara. Hani beitrei dematz lehu isha nida. Let's say two fellows are standing and an isha nida passes between them. That's a dangerous affair. Tchilas nidasahi, if she's at the beginning of her nida stage, hireges echad mehem, she can go ahead and be mazik and actually kill. The consequence could be that one of them will die. Tosfos points out it's only if she actually does kishav, so that lethal combination of the nida walking between them and the kishav will kill one of them. Im seif nidasahi, if she's at the end of a nida stage, meriva oisa b'neihem, she will generate a quarrel between them. Interesting that the Vilna Gaon, this is fascinating, he says, based on this Gemara, I have pshat in the Megillas Esther. You know, the Gemara in Megillah asks a kasha. Ma rasa Esther lahazmes Haman to the Mishnah. Why did Esther invite Haman to the Suda with the Chashverish? Says, and the Gemara suggests several pshatim. It says the Vilna Gaon, if I was there during the time of the Gemara, I would have given the following pshat. Based on this Gemara here in Pesachim, he says that we know that Esther, she was overcome by emotion when she heard the tragedy that befell Klal Yisrael, the decree, the Gzeira, and she turned into a nida, pierced a nida. So she was in a nida state at that point. That's why she invited Haman with Achashverosh. This way she can be between them and caused one of them to die. And actually that's what happened. The Haman actually died. There was actually a fight between Achashverosh and Haman. So she accomplished both things. And he says that, well, the guy says that, based on the Gemara in Tanis, even when there was a Gzera, if one of the Sarim, one of the ministers would die, then they would annul the Gzera. So this is what she was trying to accomplish. She was a Nida. She was trying to invite them both to the party so she could place herself between them and bring about salvation to Klal Yisrael. A fascinating pshat from the Vilna Gaon. In any case, if we have this Nida who passed between men, Maita Kante, what should they do to remedy the situation? Niftach Bekel, Benafsach Bekel. They should recite those psukim mentioned earlier. Hani Tuinoshe Diyas from the Pashas Drachim. What if a person notices two women on either side of the road, right at the crossroad? He has to pass through. Chada B'Hagisa, the Shvila, one on this side of the road, V'chada B'Dachgisa, one on the other. Umechavron Apayla Dadi, and the Noshim, who are situated on either side of the road, are facing each other. Vada b'kshav masik, and what are they doing there? Apparently they're up to no good. They're engaged in kshafim. What should he do to protect himself? Maitakante, what's his remedy? If he has an alternate route, lezaba, certainly should choose the other route. Avoid trouble. There's no other route. Then we also have a solution. If there's somebody else with him, they should hold hands and pass through. This will protect them from this effect. If there's no inish achrina there, he's on his own. He should recite the following chant, which will mitigate the power of the kishuv. He should address the shadim as follows. Agras, Rashbam says this is the name of the shade. Azlas, Asya, Belusya. These are various types of shadim. So he addresses them head on. He says, look, all you, miskatla, you should get killed. B'cheik kaval, the Rashbam learns this means they're killed in the miskatla, they're killed. B'cheik kaval, this is a reference to arrows. So this will somehow be mavatal their koyach and protect him from danger. So this concept of walking between women or having an isha, avoiding having an isha walk between two men, is actually also brought in the end of the Gemara Haris, Dafid Gimel Beis. The Gemara lists a full list of things which are detrimental to one's zikar and kashal shikha, make retaining one's learning difficult, and one of the items is having the isha pass through. And the Maharsha actually says that the discussion there is different than the Gemara here, because there we're speaking about shikha, here we're speaking about the danger, physical danger on account of the ruach ra. But the Salmas Chaim, Yosef Chaim Zanafel says that the same takana we have in our Gemara to say these psukim, just as they are effective here regarding ruach ra and shadim, they will be effective regarding the shikha, the kashal shikha concern mentioned in the Gemara there. It removes the fact. It removes the effect of what happened. Now, being that it's applicable halacha l'maisa, I looked around in some of these sfarim who present the exact parameters of how and when to be careful from this thing, because it's something which is a pretty common concern. We walk out in the street, we're in public, we go to simchas. This concept of not passing between two women or having an isha pass between two men. So firstly, we have some things from Rabbi Yosef Chaim Zonefeld in Sefer Salmas Chaim. He says it only applies when they're standing. So when you have an isha standing opposite another isha, then there's a concern. This is the isha's domain. Passing between the domain of nashim poses a concern. But if they're all walking, it's all just in transit, then this concern doesn't apply. He also says that it's only a concern when they're close by, they're within 4 amas of each other. But if one is here, one is there, there's no connection between the two, and walking between them is not considered passage between two nashim. Rabbi Yashiv says sitting down, nashim are seated, that also doesn't pose a concern, which is sometimes negay by simchas, when family is sitting around the table. Sitting is not considered, it does not pose a danger or concern. Now regarding age, so I saw Rabbi Yehuda Kessler was makpid even on young girls, but Simcha Zissim from Kelm, the Alta from Kelm, he maintained that the Gemara uses the term Noshim Isha, which is generally a term for an older woman, and does not apply to a youngster. Some say that the fact that the Gemara relates it to the concept of nida is apparently the concern begins at that age when the girl can potentially see dam. That's the cutoff point. And that's when the concern applies. I saw a story about Adam Gadol who was walking down the street, and it was Shabbos, and some girls were playing, and it meant walking between two girls. One was on this side of the sidewalk, the other one was on the other side. He didn't want to hurt their feelings, so he thought of an idea. He went over to one on the side, and he whispered a message. He says, please go over to your friend and give her a message, good Shabbos from me. The girl quickly ran over to the other side, and he just walked through without causing any harm. So it's something that's certainly meant to be taken to heart. And now regarding, when there's no way out, so the Gemara says you meant to grab your friend's hand and walk through. Some suggest that Sefer School Yisrael speaks about holding an item, but the Rav Yashiv says, if that would be a solution, the Gemara would have mentioned it. We find that the Gemara mentions specifically one idea of holding on to somebody's hand while passing through. Apparently, he says that is the one and only solution in such a situation. Okay, continues the Gemara with another item which is actually practical today and broad lahalacha. The Shach brings in Yoredeya Siman Kuf Tzadik Ches. Haiman de Paga Be'itisa. If one encounters an Isha Be'idna de Salka Mitvilas Mitzvah, on a way up from the Tvilas Mitzvah, so he encounters an Isha in the street when she's on the way back from Tvilah, and as the Sefer Chut Hashani points out, of course we're speaking that he's aware of of the situation, of the circumstance, because otherwise it's just that we're safe. There's no who's coming, who's going. So he knows and he's aware of the circumstance. That poses somewhat of a spiritual concern, spiritual danger. Ihu kadem mishamish. If the man is mishamish at home first, before the Isha, achta leila didei ruach snunim. A ruach, a spirit of znus will grip him. However, if the Isha is the one that is mishamish first, achta leila didei ruach snunim. A spirit of znus will grip her. So what's the solution? What's the remedy? The man should say as follows: Marsha says tefillah is associated with water. Shofech buz spills it out, and that removes the effect of this experience. And the Shach brings it down lahalacha in Siman Kuf Tzadik Ches. Amar Rav Yitzchak, Mai dechsiv gam ke'elech begeitz hamos lo yirara ki'atu yimad. David HaMelech says, even when I walk in the shadow of death, seil mavis, I have no fear because you're with me. What exactly is the shadow of death? Again, we're going to go back to the concept of shedim, mazikim, ruchos rois, and how one is meant to take care, not to interfere, and to antagonize the ruchos rois. Says the Gemara, the tzel mavis is describing zehayoshem b'tzel yichidi, b'tzel dekel yichidi, one who chooses to sleep in the shadow of a single palm tree. As we mentioned earlier, the shadim, they are found in the specific areas. So here we're speaking, and it's nighttime, and they scamper away from the light, and they hide in darkness in the shadow of this dekel yichid. So it's not meant to spend too much time there and go to sleep there. Ubetzel levana, apparently sleep in specific because Shena is connected to Misa, so perhaps this combination of sleeping in their territory endangers him. Ubetzel levana, and also he's not meant to sleep in the shadow of in the shadow of the moon. So it's nighttime, and the mazikim have their empowered, right? That nighttime is their territory. And as Rashbam explains, they don't like being exposed in light. Therefore, they scamper away to the tzel, the shade of the levana. Ubetzel dekel yichidi lo yamoran, says the Gemara. Let's go back to these two items. This that we say, sleeping in the shade of a single palm tree, lo yamoran, that's only a concern of the lo nafil tula de chavrei iloyo. When there isn't another palm tree right next to it, whose shadow is cast upon this fellow. The lo nafil tula de chavrei, the tula, the shadow of the next palm tree, is not cast iluya on him. Aval nafal tula dechaver iluya. But there's another shadow from the neighboring palm tree, which extends to this area and lands on him. Less lamba, there's no concern, because if it gets uncomfortable for the shadim, they'll simply move over to the next palm tree. Says the Gemara, is that the case? Elah desanya. If so, how do we understand the brayso? If one sleeps in the sail of a dekel yichidi in a courtyard, vayoshin betzeil levana, or if one sleeps in the sail of a levana, dame b'reishai, he is accountable for all consequences. Now, why does the brayso single out chotzer? A sail dekel yichidi in a chotzer. Hey chidami, what are we speaking about? We're speaking that there is no neighboring palm tree casting its shadow on him. Then afilu b'sadinami, then even out in the field, there's a very, very serious danger. Apparently, the chiddush here is that in a chotzer, since it's cramped quarters, the concern applies even when there's another shadow being cast by the neighboring tree, shmamina. Indeed, this is right, and that's the pshat why the brayso highlights the chotzer to teach us this additional concern that in a chotzer, even when there's a double palm tree, that does not remove the danger. Ubetzila shalavana, says the Gemara, sleeping in the shade of the lavana, which is concerning. Lo yamaran, that only applies elam b'ma'arava. It only applies at the end portion of the month, in which case the moon begins shining forth from the east side of the horizon, casting its shadow westward, and this fellow is sleeping in this westward shadow of that structure, whatever it is that he's sleeping by. You see, although the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, and likewise the moon, when it rises from the east and sets in the west, but it depends on the part of the month that we're holding, and that determines where the moon is going to rise from, because you see, there's a daily cycle going from east to west, and then there's that monthly cycle. So the moon, although it appears coming from east going to west, it's based on the earth spinning, but in addition to that, there is a monthly cycle. So it makes that monthly revolution once around per month. Now, the beginning of the month, the reason why we don't see that moon until after the Moiled, in which case it becomes visible, is because it's being blocked by the sun. So it's basically going along with the sun. And when the sun sets, you still don't see the moon because it's so close to the sun, and it lands with it. Now, you don't see it throughout the day because even if it's a bit pushed away from the sun, because of the strong, powerful light coming from that sun, so it blinds a person. But once the month progresses, in which case the moon starts lagging behind the sun, right? Because as the month progresses, the moon sort of moves this way and makes that full revolution. So when the month progresses, right, when you begin seeing the moon, it's going to be right before Shkia. As soon as the sun sets, it gets dark, you'll see that moon protruding from the sun, next to the sun. Now, as the month progresses, the moon slowly, gradually moves away from that sun, right? And when the sun sets, you see the moon up in the sky, so you see it clearly. Towards the end of the month, the moon will actually rise from the east. So when the sun sets in the west, you begin seeing the moon coming from the east, in which case it will cast a westward shadow. Ela b'ma'arava, only if he's sleeping in the westward shadow of the moon. Al badin chasa, but if it's in the beginning of the month, in which case the moon is shining forth from the west, right before sunset, in which case, right after sunset, in which case it's shining forth to the east, so there's an eastward facing shadow, less lamba, there's no concern. They're mystical things, and these are the specs. Continues the Gemara. Hayman de mafni agirda de dikla. One who relieves himself on top of the chopped stump of a palm tree, in which case appears the shadim are present there. Achtalele de de ruach palga. He's gripped by this ruach palga, some sort of ailment. V'hayman de matzli reishe. One who leans his head agirda de dikla on this stump of a palm tree, achtali ruch tzreida, he's gripped with this ruch tzreida, some sort of other ailment. Rashbam says, ke'ev chatzia roish, half a headache. Headache for half a head. Haiman de pasi adikl, one who steps over this stump, miktal, kotel. If this palm tree was chopped down, kotel will have a corresponding effect on him, and he will get killed. If it was uprooted, he will be uprooted and die naturally. He won't get murdered, but he'll die. Continues the word, that's only concerned if he hadn't placed his foot on that tree. But if he places his actual foot on the tree, less lamba, then there's no longer a concern. Continues the Gemara, Chamisha, or some have a gersa arba, for tuli have four varieties, four different types of shade, of shadows, where the shadim congregate, and one is meant to take care to keep away. Tula de dikla, yechida, the shadow cast by a single palm tree, as we just mentioned earlier. Tula de kanda, shadow cast by a kanda tree. Rashbam says shem ilan, some type of tree. Tula de parcha, the shadow of a parcha, which is a caper bush tree. This is the famous tzlaf tree. Tula de zardasa, likewise the shadow cast by a zardasa, which the Lazi Rashi interprets as being an ilan shel uzradim. I believe it's a Mishnah Kalayim. Uzradim neishuach. Uzradim is some type of wild apples, so it's a wild apple tree. Ikad armi, some add more to the list. Aftula de arba, likewise the shadow cast by a ship. V'tula de arvasa, the tzail of an arava tree. Klola de milsa, this is the rule. Kol de nafesh anfe, the more branches the tree possesses, kashi tule, the more dangerous its shadow. V'kol de kashi silue, and the harder and tougher its wood, kashi tule, the more concerning is its shadow. Levar mi koru mash, except for this one specific tree called kori masa, the afagav the kashi silve, even though it has hard wood like kashi tule, its shadow is actually not dangerous. Just the opposite, it's actually dangerous to the shadim. Some Mepharshim I saw say because it has this unique reyach which can harm the shadim. The Amr la Shida lebra. In fact, we had a story where a shade mother instructed her son as follows: Pirchi nafshich mikoro masa. Fly away from this koro masa tree. Keep away. The iu who dekatala of, because this very tree killed your father v'katala today and can potentially kill you as well. Amar Ravashi chazinu Afkana. I observed that Afkana was extra careful. The parish mikulatuli. He kept away from all shadows. Perhaps he's speaking about shadows coming from trees. Continues the Gemara. Bei pirchi ruchi. What are the shadim called? The ones that are found by the pircha, by the caper bush tree. They're called ruchi. The bei zardasa, the ones found by the zarda tree, shida, are called shida. The bei igri, the ones found on the rooftops, rishpi, they're called rishpi. Marfkim, what's the point of knowing this? Likmiya. In order to properly formulate your amulet, to counter the effect of the shadim, you have to know what they're called. This way you can write the proper nusach and address them with their proper titles, which will have the proper effect. The veipirch, the shadim that are found by the pirchi, by the tzlaf tree, bria she'enla einayim. It's a creature without eyes, cannot see. L'manaf kemina, what's the point of knowing this? L'gzuzei la, or l'gzuye la. This way, you can run away, you can escape, knowing that he has no eyes to follow you. Zimnachad. There was once a story. Hava ozol tzurba meraban lafnuye. This young Talmud Chacham went to relieve himself lebei pirchi, by the pirchi tree. Shama de ka'asa iluya. He hears that they're descending on him. They're after him. V'gazila. And he took off. He ran away. Ki azla. So the shade ran after him, but because she was blind, couldn't follow him. Chavke ledikla, the shade stumbled upon a palm tree, embraced the palm tree. Savach dikla, the tree dried up. Upakahi, and she burst. Says the Gemara, Parcha de Bezerdasa Shedi. We learned that the name for the shadim found by the Zerdasa tree are called shadim. What else do we need to know about the Zerdasa tree? High Zardas of the Smicha Lamasa. This Zardasa tree, which is situated right near the city, Loi Pachsa Mishit and Shedi, carries no less, houses no less than 60 shadim. Generally it's brought down that the shadim, the ruchais, were banished from Mekaymas Yishuv, banished out to the, they were sent out to the places which are uninhabited, places of churva, etc., on the roads, and places where it's not a Mokum Yishuv. So, they were chased out of the city. They found the first available hotel, the first tree, the Zardas, right near the city. They all called it their home. So no less than 60 shadim are going to be found in that tree. What's the point of knowing this? Regarding the amulet. So you think it's just one shade, you'll address it singularly, it won't have an effect. You meant to know that we have a whole congregation of shadim there, and you have to address your kamiyah accordingly. In fact, we had a story. Ahu Bar Kasha the Masa. There was this security officer of the city. He was a Jewish officer. The Azal V'Koi Gabi Zardasa. He was coming along by that tree. Zardasa Davis Samach Lamaska. He was walking along there. It was a Zardasa near the city. Alu Beishit and Shady. And 60 Shadim descended upon him, stuck, and placed him in danger. Osal Omer Rabban. He hurried over to the Talmud Chacham to counteract the effect of the shadim, to write a kamiyah. Problem was, this Talmud Chacham didn't know all the technical details of the shadim. He didn't know this Gemara. The Yada, the Zardas, Shady. He didn't know there were 60, no less than 60 on that tree. Kasal kamiyah l'chad sheda. So he wrote a kamiyah, but it was only directed at a single shade. He thought it was the effect of a single shade that he was experiencing. He didn't know there were many that were involved in this. The Talmud Chacham hears a celebration. The shadim on the tree were dancing. Chinka means a circle. They were celebrating on the tree, and singing as follows. Look, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. Sudr Demar. Look at his turban. He has a rabbinic turban. He's wearing the whole costume. We checked him out. He doesn't even know how to make the bracha. Rashbam explains, it's a reference to the Baruch Ata Hashem Oiter Yisrael B'Sifara, which the Gemara Brachas tells us that a person is meant to make that bracha when he wraps his head with a covering. And we know that a Talmud Chacham is to wrap himself with a sudr, such as the Sfardish Rabbanim, then Ben Ishchai, these turbans. It was a rabbinic turban, unique to the Talmud Chacham, and they were laughing at him. Look, he's wearing this turban, he doesn't even know how to make the bracha. It's not really befitting him. He doesn't know how to relate to it. He doesn't know what bracha to make on it. It's not something which he deserves to wear. Now the other Talmud Chacham came along. The Yada, the Zardas, Rashitin Shedi Haba. Now he knew the secret, that there were 60 shadim involved in this. Kasav lo kamiyah the shitin shedi. So he wrote a proper kamiyah addressing all 60 shadim. Now he got them. Shama, he overheard that in exasperation they just relented. The ka'amru, that they were saying panu manaychu mihacha. Clear the kalim, panu manaychu, your kalim, our dishes, our tools. Let's vacate the area. Now this time he got us. Continues the Gemara. Ketev Meriri. This is actually a pasuk in the Teichacha, describing the klolos. And Ketev Meriri is a certain type of koyach, a shade, a rachra. The Gemara will explain. Trei kitvi havu. There were actually two varieties of this Ketev Meriri. Chad mikamitira, one who was present before noon. He's a morning Ketev. V'chad mibasatira, one who comes around the afternoon. The Mekamatera, the one in the morning, Ketev Meriri Shemoy, he's called Ketev Meriri. Umirsi, and here appears Beikada de Kimcha. He's found in this pitcher of Kimcha, this Kemach, this Kutach dip. If you remember, we had this earlier in the Masechta, the milky chametz dip, Kutach Abavli. So that's where he's found, in this container. V'hadar be Bachsha. And he appears like he's spinning around like the mixing spoon. The Basatira, the Ketev Meri, which is found in the afternoon, Ketev Yoshet Soraim Shmoi, he has this name, Umersi Beikana de Isa, and he is present, he is seen on the goat's horns, V'hadar Beikanaf, and he spins around like a sifter, like a sieve. Abaya v'shakal v'azl. Abaya was walking along. V'azl Rav Papa mimine. Rav Papa was to his right. Rav Huna b'dev shur mismali. And to his left was Rav Huna b'dev shur. Chadzei lahu ketev meriri. Abaya noticed ketev meriri fast approaching. The ka'asel apei coming towards them. This smali and angling towards his left. So he was going to come to the left of Abaya. Abaya wanted to protect Rav Huna Breder Rav Yeshua, who was to his left. Ahadra, he made a switch. Ahadra Rav Papa l'smali. He relocated Rav Papa to his left. Ul Rav Huna Breder Rav Yeshua limine. And Rav Huna Rav Yeshua, he switched over to his right. Amali Rav Papa. Rav Papa turned to him. He says, "What about me? You're not concerned about my welfare? Ano. What about me? Why aren't you concerned about my welfare?" Amar lei, Abai responded, "You're protected. At you, sha'ata kaimaslach. Your hour stands for you. Meaning, as Rashbam explains, you have a strong mazel. Rav Papa was wealthy. We're going to learn that Kafid Gimel. He was a beer producer. He was wealthy, and a wealthy man apparently has a strong mazel. The fact that Hashem appointed him as a mefarnes of aniyim, he's one of Hashem's shluchim. He stands higher. He's a fellow with a strong mazel, and he's protected from the effect of the ketev meriri. That's why Abaye told him, you have nothing to worry about. Continues the Gemara, Michad b'Tammuz ad Shitzerbe, from the 1st of Tammuz until the 16th, Vadei Shchichi, these various forms of ketev meriri are found. Mikan ve'elach, past the 16th of Tammuz, Savik Shchichi, Savik Le'Shchichi, it is a suffix whether they're around. It's interesting because actually in Shulchan Aruch it's brought down that one is meant to be careful from Shiv Asher b'Tammuz until Tisha B'Av, and the Rashash actually brings two medrashim that they're prevalent during those weeks. So the Shulchan Aruch actually focuses on these 3 weeks rather than the 1st to the 16th of Tammuz. Somebody suggested perhaps, the times have changed after the Churban Beis Hamikdash. The Keter Meriri was effective during the Bein HaMetzarim, not before that. Perhaps the Gemara here is describing primarily the time up until the Churban. It's not clear. In any case, according to our Gemara, the point of rain is only between the 1st and the 16th. Afterwards is a suffix. Umishtaki, now where are they found? What do you have to keep away from? Mishtaki betuli de chatzpa. They're found in the shadow of the chatzpa grass, the lechotzav garmida, which has not yet grown an amma in size. Chatzev, Rashbam says, was the grass which Yeshua used to delineate the boundaries in Eretz Yisrael, because it would grow straight down without deviating to right or left. It was used to make the tchumen, this short chatzev, less than an amma, in its shadow, the ketev would hide. Ubetuli de Safar Panya, likewise in the shadows of morning and evening, the Lehav Garmida, which are less than an amma in size. The Ikar, and primarily where they found Betuli Beis HaKisei. Once again, back to the Beis HaKisei, a place of psois, a place of dirt, which attracts these various Kochas Hara, and they congregate there. That's their domain. Amar Beis, Hanitlas Mili. The following 3 things, if a person engages in them, Yoyev Aravoina. Aravoina means it brings blindness, linahira, to one's eyesight, meaning it has a detrimental effect on one's ability to see. What are the 3 things? Man de sarik reisha yavish, one who combs his head when it's dry. Uman de shase tif, one who drinks wine which dripped out of the barrel. Uman de sayim masane, one who wears his shoes. Ademaisne kara, when his feet are still moist. And once again, these are mystical things which Doesn't seem that's something that we are concerned with today. Less lamba. Continues the Gemara. Taloi bebeis. If one hangs his bread in a basket up in the air, koshelan yusa can bring about poverty. Kadam inshi, as there is a common phrase, tala silta, when the basket with bread was hung up in the air, tala mazaynei, then his mazon, his sustenance, becomes hung up and unpredictable. V'lei amar, this is only said, elarifta, only when it comes to bread. Apparently it's something of bizayin to bread, to hang it up. Aval bisra recovery, when it comes to bisra, meat, v'kavri, fish, less lamba, there's no concern with hanging them up. Urchi, it's actually common practice. That's the way it's done, and there's no concern. Pari bebesa. If one has bran roaming around the floors in his home, it's dirty, koshla neyusa can bring about aniyas poverty. Because, as we're going to see, the sar, the minister, the malach that is accountable for poverty, he's attracted to things which are unclean or repulsive. Nishur bebesa, likewise, if one has crumbs of bread roaming around the floors, koshla neyusa can bring about poverty. Beleil Shabbos is on Friday nights, ubeleil Revi'is on Tuesday nights. Shoru mazikin oliyah, the mazikin have a power at that point, and they descend on these things, on these unclean things. Isra de Mazani, the malach, which is in charge of sustenance, Nokit Shmei. He's called Nokit. Nokit is something clean. He likes cleanliness, is attracted to clean homes, and he brings about a bracha there. In contrast to a house which is unclean, Isra Dana Yusa, the malach in charge of poverty, Novel Shmei. He's called Novel, denoting repulsiveness and dirt and places which are unclean. That's what he's attracted to, and he can have an effect of aniyas in that location. In fact, the Gemara in Chulin, Daf Kufay, speaks about a fellow who was very careful to always sweep up his crumbs, and the malach of aniyas was trying to get him. And one time he said, "Oh, now I'm going to get him." He was having a picnic out on the grass. He says, "Well, he's not going to collect his crumbs." But after he finished his meal, he got a hoe, dug up the ground with the crumbs, and tossed them into the river. This way, the crumbs won't be stepped upon, and the malach was exasperated. He said, "Oh, I thought I'd get him this time, and I was unsuccessful." So one who keeps a clean home, that's a true skula for parnasa, and I believe that's something that we keep to today as well. Continues the Gemara, Tso'a apuma de chatzpa. One places a bowl on the mouth, the opening of a chatzpa, a barrel, koshal and yusa, can bring about poverty. Man de shasi maya bitsoy, one who drinks water in bowls, koshal of ruksi, it can bring about some sort of detrimental effect on one's eyes. Dochol tachli, v'le mashiyadi, one who eats spleens and doesn't wash his hands afterwards. Mafchit lasen yoimin, he's gripped with a fear, an unknown fear, for 30 days. The mesoicher v'le mashiyadi, one who has his blood let and doesn't wash his hands afterwards. Mafchit shiva yoimi, he will have pachat for 7 days. The shakal mazi v'le mashiyadi, one who takes a haircut without washing his hands afterwards. Mafchit lasen yoimi, he will have pachat for 3 days. The shakal toifrei v'le mashiyadi, one who cuts his nails without washing his hands. Mafat chad yoima, he has pachat for 1 day. V'le yada Michael Maf, he doesn't know where, he doesn't understand what the source of this pachat is. Somehow he's gripped by this fear on account of the ruach ra, which was generated by these experiences. He must make sure to wash his hands to relieve himself of this ruach ra. And in fact, these are things that brought down in Shulchan Aruch that one is meant to take care, be careful with. Regarding giving somebody a haircut, interesting, I saw from the Kaf HaChaim, he says even that requires until Sedayim, because he's going to touch unclean areas. Some are machmer, some are not. Continues the Gemara, Yoda al-Usya, if one has a habit of constantly touching his nostrils, Darga lefachta, it's a step ladder for pachat, it brings about fear. Yoda pusa, one who places his hand over his forehead, Darga l'shinsa, it will precipitate sleep. I had a relative who had trouble sleeping, so he went to Rav Chaim Kanievsky for an eitzah. He says, the Gemara in Pesachim says, Yoda apusa, Darga l'shinsa. He said it with a smile. This is the Gemara. He knows Gemara. The Gemara says, you place your hand on your forehead, that encourages sleep. In fact, my children, all my children, by habit, without knowing the Gemara, they go to sleep, hands on the forehead. Apparently has that calming effect and allows for a good sleep. Tana, we learned in the Bryce. Food and drink under a bed. Even if they're contained in a metal container, ruach ra sheira alein, the ruach ra descends upon them, because when a person sleeps on that bed, he brings down ruach ra, which has an effect on the food and drink underneath that bed. The person can point to the fact that this is specific to a bed, but for instance, underneath an airplane seat, that's not considered a bed and does not have the same effect. Okay, time for chazar. We learned when a person is not meant to antagonize his shedim, mazikim, duruchais rois. Some things we learned apply even nowadays. For instance, not sealing a doorway, a window, refraining from walking between two nashim. We discussed the encounter with the Isha from the Tfilas Mitzvah. The need to keep one's house clean and to wash hands when necessary. Hatzlacha Rabba and all the best.